everyone, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm just coming to you here today from the Grow Together Homestead because there's been a question that I've seen and heard almost daily, both in person and on online and stuff, about what exactly is homesteading. That's a tricky one because the answer is different for almost everybody who does it, and the answer is also different if you look back in history. So I'm going to tell you what it meant historically and share a little about what it means for myself and Angus here on the Grow Together Homestead. So here we go. Okay, so historically, homesteading was a process where the governments of Canada and the US implemented a whole bunch of acts in order to encourage the settlement of what they deemed to be wild lands in the prairie provinces and other areas that they wanted to see settled by Europeans. So there was several in Canada, starting in 1870, I believe it was, they started offering land to folks who would come to Canada or come out west in Canada and improve a property, put a homestead on it. For a small registration fee of $10, they got 160 acres. That was a bargain at the time, and a whole lot of people did take up that offer and settle themselves out here in Canada. And also very similar acts took place in the US as well. All right. So that is the way that many people moved to the prairie provinces. And a lot of people weren't very successful because it was pretty difficult to live in the prairie provinces if you didn't know what you were doing. But there were also a whole lot of success stories. And that's about the same thing that can be said, but one of the only things that could be said to be the same about homesteading today and in history, that there are a lot of people who are successful and there are a lot of people who really struggle with it and do give up on it for good reason. But there's also good reasons for a lot of success stories as well. So for myself, homesteading has come to mean today something a lot more about being more in touch with where my food comes from, where actually a lot of the things I use come from. It did start with food, and I will say for a lot of people that's where it does start. I like to be involved in gardening. I like to be involved in seed saving so that I can have my seeds again next year. I'm trying to create most of my own food as much as I possibly can. And I have ducks and chickens for eggs. I don't use them for meat, but I do a lot of canning, and I trade my canning and some of my other stuff that I preserve for food that I don't do myself, because I am a meat eater, and what I do is I trade a lot of the food that I create in the garden and eggs and stuff for meat. Okay, so it's one way that I can be a little bit more control of where my food source is coming from. And I also, for me, it was really important to be I thought that the food processing factory industry was just getting out of control, and I think that there's a lot more security in being able to create a lot of what my family needs myself. So that was a huge part of it for me, and it's a huge part of what keeps me motivated every day. I've got a lot of interests, never get bored doing homesteading. There's always lots to do. If anything, it's hard to get what you need to get done every day. So there's a lot of reasons to get into homesteading, but one that definitely holds true for me is the amount of pride that I get out of creating my own things. You know, I've accomplished some things in my life, but sometimes the pride I get from growing something myself, preparing a meal from stuff I got from my own yard only. The pride I get when I see Angus create some amazing invention that he's made to make my life easier on the farm, on the homestead. These are prides that mean more to me than any university degree I got or big deal I used to get in the office. So that is a huge part of it for me, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of people do it. It's something pretty great. Yep. One little warning I want to give you is that pride can be a bit addictive when you start being a little bit more self-sufficient, and it becomes a bit of a slippery slope. 1 second you are thinking, oh, this year I'm going to grow my own tomatoes from seed, and before you know it, you're spending all your evenings researching the best way to inoculate branches with oyster mushroom spores. You're carving your own crochet hooks out of your apple tree branches, and you're making your own lip balm from your bees. It happens quicker than you can imagine. And that's another thing. We have 5 acres here that we use as an organic homestead. But I know very successful homesteaders who've done it in 1 acre or less. It's more about attitude and the size of your property. What can I do with what I got? How can I make the most use of the natural cycles that I have around me? How can I avoid wasting things that are potentially useful here? Those sorts of questions. Those are the things that keep you up at 3 a.m. wondering, oh, what can I do? And it's also a little bit about being easier on yourself and taking your cues from nature. Seasonal cycles are very important. You are not going to have the same routine day after day, and you're definitely not going to have the same routine month after month. It changes constantly. There's a few things that need to stay consistent. Your animals need to have care. They've got no choice. You better take care of them whether you're sick or not. But you're not going to be spending your winter time weeding your garden, probably, right? You're going to be focusing on other things, like maybe creating crafts for Christmas or creating a game plan for your garden the next year. It's all about taking advantage of the seasonal cycles as they are there, and also the resources that you have around you. I live in a zone 3 prairie environment. My resources are going to be very different from someone who's living in coast in a zone 7 environment. It's just the way it is. And it's all about embracing that and embracing nature, embracing our food sources, and just trying to be the best you can be at that. And it's really important that you be easy on yourself when you make errors or you have setbacks. I've been sick for almost 2 weeks, so unfortunately, a lot of my apples are going into the compost bin instead of going into apple cider vinegar, which was the big plan. But I honestly could only handle taking care of my animals for a couple of weeks. That's what happened. And another thing is those of us who choose this lifestyle, we need to be easier on each other, okay? I get very disheartened when I see people criticizing other people's forms of homesteading. Really, we need to support one another, because the rest of the world, a lot of them think we're nuts, and it doesn't help anybody for us to be putting each other down. It's better to be supportive, I believe, and that's one of the reasons why Angus and I do this. We want to help other people try to be a little bit more self-sufficient, and it really doesn't help to be putting people down for their efforts. So, as always, I hope that was interesting. I hope it answered some questions. If it just gave you more questions, which I know I do sometimes, please put them in the comments. Subscribe if you want to see some of the adventures that are coming up. And as always, I hope you take this chance to grow together today. Have a good one.